Welcome, our say talk show viewers. Today we're at the Bloemfontein campus at the University of Free State. Our guest for today is Kopano James Muleleki, who's the chairperson of FALAS. Good afternoon. How are you, sir?
I'm good, and yourself?
I'm very well, sir. Can you just tell us what is FALAS?
Okay. Let me start by saying Happy Ascension Day of Jesus Christ to all Christians out there, and Happy Eid Mubarak to all Muslims out there. I would also firstly like to congratulate the Director General of World Trade Organization, the first African to become Director General of that organization, and the first woman, Dr. Okonjo Iweala of Nigeria. And I'll also like to congratulate the first Tanzanian president and the first woman to become Tanzanian president, President Suluhu Hassan. To answer your question, sir, FALAS is an organization, it's an international organization of some sort. So it was firstly discovered last year around October. It only arrived here in South Africa this year. So what FALAS is an organization consisting of law students, of diverse law students. What we do is to unify Africa. So we are trying to endeavor towards a goal of the unification of Africa and securing a common future in Africa. So our mission is to establish a network of African law students. African law students who can now engage with ideas on how then we develop our legal continental culture, and how then we develop Africa as a continent, be it economically, politically, and socially. And our vision is to see an Africa that is well founded on unity, well founded on growth in terms of trade in Africa, and in terms of the economic standpoint, from an economic standpoint in Africa. Yes.
So, okay, what are the various factors that we've seen as an issue that made this organization to be founded? Because I'm hearing that you are speaking of unity. When you're speaking of unity, there are a lot of factors that might lead to a breakdown of unity in Africa. So what are the factors that we have highlighted that this is in law terms that we have realized this is a problem and we need to address it?
Okay. First of all, before going to unity, I want to create a perspective. Before going before even talking about unity, before even endeavoring towards a common future in Africa, how do you unite people who are facing injustice in Africa? How do you unite people who are facing insurgency attacks in Africa?
Can you give me an example in terms of injustice?
Injustice that we see in Africa is the recent occurrence in Nigeria, where police brutality occurred in Nigeria, whereby protesters were shot, protesters were attacked. So you have a human right to protest, to picket. So even here in South Africa, we've seen it in South Africa, whereby during lockdown, police brutality and law enforcement agencies beat people. A certain individual was killed by military people, by soldiers.
So it generally means that various sectors of Africa, the police force, and all these big sectors that are supposed to protect individuals are actually against them. What do you think is the problem there?
Pardon me?
Like, what do you think is the problem with these factors that violate people, but therefore they understand what is justice? They have to understand justice much more better than the victims. I don't know if you get my question.
I don't get your question.
Like, what I'm trying to say is that these sectors, such as the police forces, I feel like they're in the right position to understand justice more than the people that they are violating.
Okay, either way, they do that either way, because like we held a legislation that that gave those police officers power over citizens.
Okay.
Disaster Management Act that was enacted by Parliament, and that was now led by we know Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma.
Yes,
So
yes, yes, yes.
this lockdown is as a result of that act. So the police officers and the law enforcement officers were to understand that you shouldn't have a power overreach over citizens. You cannot for instance find me at night and you just attack me, or you cannot just enter at my home because I was in possession of alcohol and later then attack me. So you can just arrest me at the same time preserving my human right, at the same time not stripping me of those human rights. Because like if we do that, if we allow such law enforcement agencies to do that, we are stripping away our hard-earned democracies that we have in Africa. So we are stripping away our hard-earned democracies to the dust. So we cannot let that happen in democracies such as South Africa and in other countries.
Okay, so go to the part of unity.
Oh, okay. As I was saying, unity, you cannot preach unity if like there's injustices in Africa which we have exhausted, and if we have insurgency attacks that were happening in Mozambique earlier in the year, where people were killed, dozens of people were killed in northern Mozambique. We have issues like famine in Africa, poverty. We saw what happened in Zimbabwe. We were seeing what's happening in some parts of Africa in terms of diseases, in terms of malnourishment of children in Africa. So we cannot talk about unity. Meanwhile, there are outliers in terms of access. So we cannot, when you deduct a number of people who are economically stable, and when you deduct them from the number of people who are not economically stable, who are suffering from economic exclusion, we cannot have outliers from that result. So the main importance of FALAS is to now guard human welfare. We're saying that welfare of African people is very important if we have to now forge towards that unity that we're talking about. If we have to forge towards the common future that we're talking about. To put things into perspective, the recent COVID-19 pandemic in Africa, the impact of it. If you could see in Africa is the worst hit in terms of this COVID-19 pandemic. Africa is the worst, and there's this thing called neocolonialism. Yeah. Let me just explain it to you a little bit for 5 minutes, without entering into the political nature of it. Neocolonialism is colonization. Neo means new, so colonization, or the new form of colonization. So let's say, for an example, Senegal is worst hit in terms of this COVID-19 thing. So Senegal's lost lives. Their economy has been crippled in terms of job opportunities. People are unemployed, and so forth. So if we have that case in Senegal, yeah, and now France comes. We know France, right?
Yeah.
France comes and say, okay, Senegal, here's this batch of vaccines, we're helping you. They come and cite this thing of we have good international relations with Senegal. No, we know that France is a former colonizer of Senegal. So they come and give Senegal, for example, vaccines, batch of vaccines. And Senegal stabilizes in terms of cases. It reaches population immunity and herd immunity. So after that, if Senegal, let's say for example, Senegal comes and Senegal is rich in coffee. They take their coffee and go and sell it. So they've stripped us of our economic opportunity, because if Senegal, for example, specializes in coffee and you take that coffee away, what about the people who are supposed to earn from that coffee? So to prevent this neo-colonialism, we have to say Africa must be self-sufficient.
Okay.
Africa must be self-sufficient in terms of, and if you see it, Africa is rich in terms of medical expertise. We are capable of building these big pharmaceutical companies. If we see here in South Africa, we have Biovec pharmaceutical company that can store numerous vaccines. It can be a hub for storage in Southern Africa in terms of storing vaccines. And if we see medical expertise in Africa, South African medical experts and medical scientists were the first ones to discover this COVID-19 variant of South Africa. So we are saying that Africa is capable. The capability of Africa is high up there, is soaring up like any other capability in the European European countries.
Yes. Can you just address that part, integrate that with unity? How do we as FALAS, just give me 2 ways that we want to ensure that you work towards a unified society, combining or integrating what we have said, putting you in the middle as a mediator and the society. How will you be able to unify Africa?
Okay. Unity is the union of people.
Okay.
Union of people. So we have what you called African Union.
Okay.
So we work from the inside of African Union.
Right.
Let me just mention at the first glance, let me just mention the objectives that we have in terms of African Union. Our first objective of FALAS in terms of African Union Agenda 2063 is Aspiration 3. It states that the Aspiration 3 is to promote good governance, respect of human rights, peace and justice in Africa. So those are the aspirations of the Agenda 2063 of African Union. So how do we promote good governance? So this is a standpoint of unity. So how do you create good governance? We cannot create good governance if we have what's happening in South Africa at the moment, whereby you have corruption that is rampant in South Africa, whereby we've seen with PPE tenders, irregularities and stuff, people stealing public funds and people stealing away from the people of South Africa. So we have to now create good governance. That's how then we unite Africa. Create good governance in terms of that Aspiration 3. So African Union, what it does now, it is a organization that overlooks Africa. So we have member states like our Tanzania, your Algeria. Those member states are the people who have signed, who are signatories, who are members of African Union. So there's every legal framework that African Union disperses, like this Aspiration 3 that I was talking about, is to create a unified continent, whereby all these countries that are member states to that particular aspiration or that covenant or that charter of African Union, we create an Africa that sees things equally. If we're talking about good governance, we know that there's good governance in South Africa. We know that there's good governance in Nigeria. We know that there's good governance in Senegal. And we know that there's good governance in Ethiopia, in Egypt, wherever you go in Africa, there's good governance. If we're talking about respecting of human rights, if we're talking about respecting of peace and justice.
Is there good governance in South Africa? Because I hear that you're speaking about other places.
Okay, let's start in Africa, in South Africa. So in South Africa, we have like the thing that I was talking about now, corruption.
Okay.
We acknowledge that in South Africa, to some extent, we cannot, out of 10, I can just give South Africa 7 or 1. So because like this corruption thing is playing a role in terms of good governance, playing a huge role, because if the fundamental aspect of good governance is that people must get jobs. There must be accountability in terms of public funds. There must be poverty must be fought against. There must be employment.
Okay.
And there must be an effective judiciary that can now establish justice towards.
Does FALAS have power to change the judiciary, or maybe can pop up some ideas and to one of the most powerful individuals who have power to change judiciary?
No, Powers doesn't have that authority.
Okay.
We're not even we're just discussing this thing in passing. We're not the judiciary is being appointed
Backwards then.
by the JSC and stuff. So we are not. we're not
Let's
in that.
come to this of students. How does FALAS, because it's in the faculty of law,
Yeah.
so how does FALAS ensure that it enhances and cultivates law students towards better career opportunities?
Okay. To start with, we're in the University of the Free State Law Faculty. We're not yet recognized by the law faculty. The law faculty is supposed to recognize us. They're holding a meeting this week. They're supposed to recognize us, so we're not yet there, but we'll talk about it either way. So, we develop African law students in UFS in terms of enhancing and harnessing their research capabilities. What's happening now, I've established me and my executive team and the organization as a whole, our members, our general members, we have established a research project, which is now in session. It's a monthly thing. So we research on a problem. Let's say in Africa, there's this issue of child labor in Africa. We develop a legal theme or legal topic from that child labor thing, and we research about it. We get to learn more about what's child labor in Africa, what are the national laws of other countries, what are those laws saying about this child labor thing. And again, law students must be now well accustomed with international law. In the Constitution, I think Section 39 of the Constitution, you're not a law student, but law students out there will understand this. So Section 39 of the Constitution says, Section 39 says, if a court is to interpret legislation, so legislation is a law that was created by Parliament. So if they were to interpret the legislation, they must interpret that legislation taking into account international law. So Section 1B of...
So referring to international as in Africa, within Africa, or internationally, worldwide?
Internationally is within Africa as well.
Okay.
But in the context of our constitution is worldwide. It includes it's wide. It includes European countries, your Canada, your America. So it includes, so that the constitution gives power on the courts to do what? To interpret international law, and it's a must. It says, let me just remember it. It says Section 39 1B says the court must interpret national law, and then Section 1C will now say they may interpret now. They may take into account or consider foreign law. What's foreign law? Foreign law is the law of another country. Like, take Mozambique, for example. Mozambican law is the law of Mozambique. But from our perspective, it's foreign law.
Okay.
So our law is foreign law to them. Our law in South Africa is national law. And their law in Mozambique is national law as well. So the legislation gives powers for courts to interpret international law and foreign law. So our students are now integrated into that international law aspect of things, knowing that if they do this international law module in their career or in their academic year, when the years go by, they will realize that actually FALAS helped me in this type of thing. I know the basics of international law in terms of legislation. When you look at it, when I have a dispute and I have to resolve it, and the African Union has a legal framework for that issue, so I can use the African Union framework and resolve my dispute.
Let's come to this one. Second last question I'll say to show viewers. The role of FALAS, grade 12s, we have grade 12s, we have grade 11s and grade 10s. as the chairperson of FALAS, and I feel like there are a lot of students, secondary students, and possibly I can say primary students, who foresee themselves as future lawyers of South Africa, even international lawyers. What do you think the role of FALAS might play in the future to ensure that they raise proper awareness in terms of law?
Okay.
Coming to the secondary level, what role FALAS could play? Or maybe are you in that mission to also somehow to just bring that awareness in those levels? Because I feel like that's where everything starts.
Okay,
Yes.
that's true. Everything starts from the onset, from the beginning. So we can forge towards doing that, whereby we can harness young people in our secondary schools, in our rural areas out there. We can well integrate them into their careers in terms of law, because like what I've realized is that you need to be passionate about your art. You have to master this. So if you have to master it, it goes hand in hand with passion. So it starts at the young level,
Yes.
whereby you see that, okay, at home, mom is not well. Mom is not well, and I know that my mother has to receive healthcare from a clinic by law, free of charge from a clinic. So it starts from there, that I'm entitled to receive a social grant. A child will see that I'm entitled to receive social grant. I have a right to education. So it starts from those basic things, the most building blocks of law.
Of law. Okay, I'm coming to the last question. As the chairperson of FALAS, the newly elected one, and we also congratulate you.
Thank you so
on
much.
that position. I feel like it's a heavy one. What is your closing statement with regards to yourself as an individual before FALAS, and therefore integrating FALAS with you to the students?
Okay, Kopano Moleleki is a very it's an astute individual. Okay, an astute individual. I'm well into leadership. I like to lead. And I'm social justice orientated. So social justice you can look at in a way of advancing economic opportunity, equality. So social justice can be looked as in a certain way of advancing equality. So from my personal traits of being a social justice activist, it's helping FALAS towards what? Towards achieving economic equality of African people, towards the goal of unifying Africa, towards the goal of creating a common future here in Africa.
Okay. Thank you very much, rsatalkshow viewers. Comment there on the comment section. You'll find us on Facebook, on Instagram, and also on YouTube, guys. We'd like to hear what is your say, what is your take with FALAS, Federation of African Law Students. Thank you so much, guys. See you next time. Is it fine?